Hi guys, so we're doing signs of health, and one of the vital signs of health, as I'm stood directly behind a horse, is TPR. So this is really important for monitoring health if your horse is a little bit off colour. Obviously if you're on yards that are shipping horses abroad, or you're at vets, they're going to be monitoring this daily, sometimes on a twice daily basis, because quite often an elevation in temperature is the first sign that something's going on, so it's what we tend to call a subclinical sign that they might have an infection. So most thermometers these days are digital, very easy, just switch it on, press the button and it will come on, okay. Then a little bit of Vaseline, so you want a little bit of lube, just make it easier to pop it into your horse's bottom. Obviously we're going into the anus. Today's model is Duke. I think he's good to have his temperature taken, we'll soon find out.
We don't know.
So when you slide it in, just hold the tail away and stand quite close to the horse, because if they lift a leg up or anything and they kick you, you're going to get less velocity on a kick if you're quite close, okay? Because it's not without reason that they might find this a little bit uncomfortable. Hold the thermometer slightly on the angle because you want it to go into the side wall of the anus. You don't want it sticking in a pile of poo that's waiting to come out. And then you literally just hold it in while you wait for it to go beep. It's worth just having a little look to check that you've got numbers on your screen, that the thing hasn't turned itself off, because that's embarrassing and annoying. And so you basically just wait and you let the thing stick in while it's thinking about beeping, so it's beeped. So there we go. If we can see on Duke, he's 37.5, which is completely normal temperature. Next thing we might do is we might watch our respiration rate. So I find the easiest way to do this is to stand very slightly behind, and if Ellie comes where I am, she can see. And then if you can see, and obviously one full movement of his flank in and out, he's got quite fat flank, so it's quite easy to see, is one breath. Okay, so the best way to do this is to observe for 30 seconds, have a stopwatch on your phone, or if you've got a digital watch on your wrist, observe for 30 seconds and then you can times it by 2. Obviously if you're doing it 30 seconds times by 2, there's less room for error rather than doing it 15 seconds times by 4. Okay, the other thing that you'll do is take a resting heart rate for a horse to check signs of health. Now the easiest way to do it, we do have these at uni, is to do a handheld heart rate monitor, which you literally just hold, and it's generally done on the left hand side because that's where the heart is positioned in the body. So you just hold it on in the girth area on the left hand side and it will beep and it will give you a reading. So that's obviously going to be the most correct way of doing it if you like to get a scientific reading. So most vets and most big yards that take heart rates quite a lot will have a machine to do it. The other way you can do it is by taking the digital artery. So if you go underneath here and make sure that you take it with your fingers, not your thumb, because you have got a pulse in your thumb. Okay, now what I do is I basically run my hand down and I'm looking for what feels like a piece of al dente spaghetti, and then I'm just holding it against the mandible, okay, against the cheekbone, until I can just feel a slight pulse. Okay, so I can feel that now, he is alive, so that's a good thing. And then again, we just count for 30 seconds and we times it by 2, and that's the easiest way of doing it, and it's a skill that you all need to have a go at, because on some horses it can be quite hard to find. The other way we can do it is if we have a stethoscope. So again, left hand side, I'm stood the wrong side of the horse, but you get the idea, into basically their armpit. Listen, you want a quiet surrounding, you don't want the radio on or somebody sweeping the yard or somebody shouting when you're doing it, but you'll basically just hear quite a distant lub-dub sound, and it is quite far away. It's not as strong as you think it'll be. So again, listen, 30 seconds, times it by 2. And that's how you do TPR. Switch on. Okay, so monitoring a horse's weight, we might do it to see if it's losing weight or gaining weight. Obviously the most accurate way of doing this is with a weigh bridge, and quite often, again, if they're shipping horses abroad, especially race horses, they'll weigh them to see how much percentage of the body weight they've lost, because if they've lost over a certain amount, they're going into dehydration territory, which means they're not fit to race. So weight is very often used internationally in horse transport. We might also weigh them for dosing them with wormers, with drugs, that kind of thing. So we need to know percentage of per body weight what we start to give them. Now, if you're not posh and you haven't got a weigh bridge, then what you can do is use a weigh tape. So most of the feed companies do weigh tapes. So we've got one here. Oh, and a saddle company. This is Bates Saddles, so that's quite unusual. I think this one is Dobson Horrell, this way tape. So it doesn't matter what company you use, but always make sure you use the same tape, because you do find, we've done trials on this at uni, you do find you get a lot of variation between the way tapes. So if you're just looking for weight fluctuation, then just use the same tape, okay? So we normally judge horses' weight in kilograms. Make sure that the horse is stood square, it says. Place the tape around the horse's heart girth, which is just behind the front legs, basically around their armpits. Pull the tape tight, and then it's where the tape meets. This is your horse's weight. Okay, now obviously the positioning of it can have an influence, so you want to make sure that the same person's doing it every time. So if we just pop this on a tube, and you can also get pony tapes and horse weight tape.
What do you want to do with Magic's hand?
Heart girth area, and then you've got it fairly tight round, and you can see that this finishes at 506 kilograms. Now I would put this horse at more than that, because he's quite a fat chunk, bless him. So let's see what the other tape says, whether we get the same reading on the other tape. So take a minute just to read the tape, because some of them have got one side for a pony, some of them have got one side for a horse. So you can see that says horse tape, that says pony tape. Okay, obviously ponies have got short legs. Ooh. You can see with the other tape, we've got what I would consider to be a more realistic reading. So it's on probably about 150. Okay, so that one's 155, that one's 147, so it's just slightly above it. So for this horse, I would actually say that's probably more accurate reading. So as you can see, these tapes do vary, because that's nearly a 50 kilogram difference. So that could be vital if we were actually administering drugs to him. So it's worth actually, if you could get hold of a weigh bridge, and a lot of feed companies will come around and bring mobile weigh bridges to your yard. If you can put the horse on the weigh bridge and put the weigh tape on them, then at least that tells you whether your weigh tape is accurate. There is also a formula which I will put on your Now page that you can also work out by measuring the heart girth and dividing it by a number I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will put it onto your Now page so you can have a little play with that as well. But what's quite a good game is when you go on the yard and when you're riding, guesstimate the horse's weight. The staff know the weight, and actually there is a database of all the horse's weight, and they do weigh them quite often. So have a little guess of the weight, then ask one of the yard staff whether you can access, where you can access the horse's weights, and see how far your eye is correct or not. Thanks. So obviously the most accurate way of knowing a horse's weight is to use a weigh bridge. So we have one here, we've powered it up, we've set it on 0, and we've got Jude with the supermodel Tom, who's just gorgeous, coming to be weighed. So have a little think, you can see Tom going past, have a little try, have a little guess how much you think Tom weighs, and then we're going to have a look at how he is on the weigh bridge. Now obviously when you're introducing a horse to this, you need to just take your time, make sure they're confident. It's almost like a loading platform. You can see Jude isn't on the weigh bridge with him, so it's not going to impede the marks, and Jude doesn't want to know how much she weighs.
Definitely
And
not.
so we can see here that Tom weighs 504 kilograms. So who got the closest?